You are listening to the USDN on the DFPN.
It's a trap!
What is up, everybody, and welcome to the United States Department of Nerds, where we are for the people, by the people, and of the people. Some creators chase the industry, others build their own. From the indie boom of the 1990s to today's creator-driven comic renaissance, one publisher never stopped telling stories, not for trends and not for algorithms. They kept doing it for the love of the medium. This is more than comics. This is legacy. Tonight, we are joined by Len Mihalovich. Yeah, I was close.
That's okay.
Creator and publisher behind Lenovations Press, a boutique indie comics imprint built on passion, persistence, and storytelling that spans decades. This is a conversation about longevity, creativity, and what it really takes to build something that lasts in indie comics. The Council of Nerds is now in session. Len, welcome to the USDN.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And I apologize for your name. I am not a name person. I try my damnedest, though. I was practicing before we got started and before you had popped in. I'm like, I'm going to say it like this, and if it's wrong, and apologize about it. So,
well, somebody who calls himself the chairman and doesn't use his real easy to pronounce name. Okay.
Hey, the chairman is a character. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All right.
But so take us back to the early 90s and what got you doing, what created Lenovations Press?
Well, okay. I have problems editing my story, but I'll try. So way back when, I always been a comic fan, sent in stuff. I won a Marvel No Prize, just a big super fan all my life as a kid growing up, whatever. Then all of a sudden I turned a magic age, 29. I went whitewater rafting. I went doing all kinds of, dangerous things. And I'm like, you know what? I want to try this whole comic writing thing. So it's like every senior graduating college, I'm like, here I am, world. I'm ready to do it. And you just get slapped in the face because you're like, get out of here, kid, because everybody has tried this before and you're just one of many. I started collecting all my rejection letters. I have my one from Marvel on my website, actually. But I sent submissions to everybody. I wanted to be a comic writer. That's what I wanted to do. This is going to be fun. I know so much about it. I know the whole history of Marvel, DC, Archie, whoever's going to hire me. I was ready to write some stories, and I got rejection letters from all of them. But it wasn't until I got the one from Dark Horse that really resonated with me, because it was an editor who took some time, took the form letter and wrote on the other side of it some suggestions that I should do. Said, my samples were decent. I've never been published by anybody else, so of course they wouldn't want to take a chance on me. Okay. Yeah. So that was a valid thing. And she said to get published like anywhere that you could, just write, get published, work with editors, get better at it. So I did all kinds of zines and fan fiction and things like that. I got picked up by the Comic Buyer's Guide, which was a comic newspaper back in the day, and I wrote a couple of articles for them. I wrote something for a Collect magazine. I wrote something for Indie magazine. I wrote a feature there. So there were a lot of things that I wrote. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take the second part of her suggestion and I'm going to make my own comic series and I'm going to start shopping it. And I'm not going to shop it to Marvel or DC. I'm going to shop it to these smaller publishers. So way back when we had that Comic Buyer's Guide, which was a comic newspaper that came out every week, little publishers would take out ads in there, pitching their books and everything. So I collected all these little publishers and I started sending out my samples of a series I created called Section 12 to them. And the first one I sent out to, Dilemma Productions out of Springfield, Massachusetts, about 2 hours away from my house. He called me. He's like, I want to do this. He goes, I'm doing a book right now. And he goes, I want to do this one too. I can't afford to do them both. So we're going to put it together. We're going to make it an anthology. I'll take half your story, half my story, and we're in this together. And I'm like, absolutely. This is great. The guy's name was Mike Kelleher, and he works for Marvel, DC, all kinds of places right now. But at the time he was just self-publishing his book, Legend Killer. We had Section 12 on the other side. He called it Dilemma Presents. It was one of those black and white flippy books, very indie, very,
Yeah.
And they're still out there on eBay if you want to find them, folks. It ran for 4 issues before it got shut down by, all of the stuff that was happening back in the 90s with comic publishers. So after that, I had met during the convention trail this guy named Phil Miller, and he was a really nice guy. I met him up in Utica, and I'm like, I really want to work with you as an artist. You're fantastic. I'd love to see how you draw Section 12. He drew a story for me. It was wonderful, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna have this as number 5 of Dilemma Presents. And Mike's like, no, we can't do that. So then I was able to cut a deal with a company in Canada called Mythic Comics, and they picked up Section 12 as a full feature. So Phil redrew the first issue of Section 12. It looked beautiful. It became their bestseller. It got that diamond spotlight or whatever in the catalog. Everybody loved it. And then Mythic had to close doors because Marvel bought distributors. And, if you didn't use their distributor, if you weren't Marvel or DC, they weren't going to distribute the indie comics. So an indie comics publisher who's not able to get to the store at the time, it was just the kiss of death. So we walked off into the sunset with a lot of those stories never seeing the light of day. So flash forward, life happens to 2014. I'm working my real job. I fly on a plane every week. This is where the story gets really crazy. I fly on a plane every week. I'm one of those people who I work from Monday to Thursday off site, and then I fly home. So I'm on the same plane every week commuting. At this time I was commuting to the Midwest. And it happens that this guy was on the plane and he was taking up all the overhead space. And it was because he was pushing his way in front of line, and he was just getting there first. And I'd have to check my bag every time because it's like I only carried this one little backpack.
Yeah.
But he had 4 suitcases. And I'm like, why are they letting this guy carry 4 suitcases on? And I knew him because he wore a ridiculous looking tracksuit that he traveled with him. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get there at 5 a.m. And just out of spite, I'm going to stand right by the gate the entire time for this, for this 6:30 flight. And I stood there for an hour and a half, and the gate agent said, okay, anybody with any disabilities or anything that needs to board first? So this guy fake limps up there, fake limps past the gate agent, and then runs down the jetway laughing. And I was like, okay, I'm putting this on social media. I got to tell the world about this. So I did. Week after week, it was something different. He would do something else to get on the plane first, and he would foil me, and he would get on the plane first, and one week he pretended he was the wheelchair guy, and he pushed this woman with a wheelchair onto the plane with him, like he pretended he knew her. And I was like, wow, this is all really happening, and I have photos of it, and I'm putting it on social media, and my following is growing, and all of a sudden, people are asking my wife in the preschool pickup line, like, what did Tracksuit Man do this week? And what did Tracksuit Man do that week? And so here I am now, it's 2014, and my buddy Mike Kelleher is like, you should do comics again because you just had a perfect story fall in your lap. Make this into a comic story. And I'm like, okay. So I took all of the social media posts and looked at them and said, okay, this can be a page and this can be a page. And so on the left, I would have the visual representation of it. And on the right, I'd have everybody's comments, which were hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
So that was Tracksuit Man. And a funny thing happened when I did that comic, because as a writer, I didn't really have a lot of skills. So I had to go find an artist. I had learned how to digitally color and letter. So I was able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I had a printer who helped me with all the pre-press stuff. So I got it all together. I printed it out. It looked like a great book. And then my comic friends started to come back out of the woodwork. I'm hearing from Phil Miller. I'm hearing from Mike Kelleher. And they're like, let's do this. Let's make comics again. Let's put Section 12 back up. And I was like, okay, you guys want to do this? We'll make Section 12. So we did. We had all these great stories from the 90s that never saw print. So the question with Section 12 became, what do we do? Do we do what everybody does, and do we just rewrite everything so that it's going to happen in 2017 or 2018 at this point? Or I said, no, I think it's going to be cool if we set the whole thing in 1994 and we keep it in 1994.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other voice in my head said, but GPSs and cell phones and stuff like that are cool too. And I'm like, yeah, they are. So what if we set the story in the modern day? And I'm like, you know what? I'm a little publisher. I can do them both. So I did them both. So I expanded my timeline I did all the 1994 stories that I had in inventory. And then I created another one in the modern day where there's this team of people that are looking for the Section 12 technology, because it's all futuristic, even in 2022 that we're at this point. And they want to find all that technology, and it's valuable to them, but it's all gone. So it's a very interesting series, because I have to find a plausible way to make things that were 22 years ago at this point come up in a plausible way that they can be that they can have survived. So just as an example, in the first issue, we found this woman hires this guy who's going to be one of the Section 12 new team, and he is paid to clear out a widow's basement because she's moving to Florida. Well, they all have all these boxes have the Section 12 logo, because her late husband was a hoarder and he worked at Section 12 and he was stealing stuff from the installation. So he has all this top secret tech in his,
Sorry, my head just went to Johnny Cash working at the Cadillac plant, stealing all the Cadillac parts.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So that was one thing. And then I had another where a guy was in a coma for 20 years and he woke up and he was nonverbal, but he's painting pictures of what he saw in Section 12, and the logo is all over the place. So there's another plausible way. So just an example. I had a lot of fun with a storage locker that was prepaid for 20 years and then got opened up and auctioned off with a reality TV show. Yeah. And so that series has been a lot of fun, and it's really caught on. We just released Section 12 Declassified, where the team finds a clue and it takes them to a Renaissance fair, and I won't spoil it any more than that. So it's really fun. But the classic series is the one that I love. Section 12 is a top secret government installation that keeps scientific failures out of the public eye. So every time something fails science-wise, catastrophically, they call this special team of superheroes in that are all inmates of Section 12, because they were all parts of failed experiments, and their job is to cover everything up. So we have a lot of fun covering everything up. And recently people have been asking me, so I have started combining them into not quite graphic novels. I call them mega size comics. So it's the first
Yeah.
4 issues of section 12
So trade
together.
paperbacks. Yeah.
Yeah. It's still in the floppy format. It's, but because it's a little more inexpensive for people that way, but it's nice. And we've had a lot of success with those. So it's because I'm running out of the original print run. So rather than reprinting a second run, I decided to make these mega size ones because I can add some director's cut kind of stuff in there, and
So you just basically answered a whole lot of questions all at one time, which is no, hell no, dude. I love that kind of stuff. When I could just ask a question and just let the person go. It makes for a whole lot of less editing and stuff like that later. So for me, it's like ask a question and let them go.
All right.
But let me see how far did you go? See. So
I talked about section 12.
Yeah. Let's go back to the 90s for a second, because the 90s seen the birth of Image, the birth of Image. Mirage was still around. Marvel, DC was trying to do everything in its power to stop the Images and the Mirages and the Black Horses and those types of people from being able to get their books into stores. It's well-known facts, well-known history that's what they were doing. But from an indie perspective, a pure indie perspective, what was that like watching Image be born, Mirage, and all these other companies being born at the time, despite what Marvel and DC were trying to accomplish on their side? And then you like, hey, I'm going to make comics now, and jumping into the midst with the big boys before some of them became big boys.
So I'll jump into my, so you want to get into comics school speech for a second, and I'll take a paragraph out of that.
No, dude, I love that. Go for it.
Okay. So publishing in the 21st century was a lot different than than it was in the 20th century. So in the 20th century, a lot of publishers had things in black and white just because it was so cost prohibitive to do printing. Digital printing wasn't really a thing. You had to do the 4-color offset stuff. And that meant you were either getting 1,000 or 2,000 copies of something, and you were going to have them sitting in your garage when you sold 20, 30 copies a show at $2 or $3 a piece. The numbers didn't work well. So it was tough. You put in your book was more like a magazine because you put it in, and for a month you had some great sales. You had sales from Diamond, you had sales from Capital City, you had sales from Heroes World, and they would order 1,200 books, 1,500 books, things like that. All you had to do was show up in the catalog, and these indie friendly stores would get, if you had a good cover and a good description, you'd get the orders. And that was great. And that's exactly what you were saying, that DC and everybody else hated, because all you had to do was show up. And it was a lot of fun. We got out there. Back then you got fan letters. We got fan letters from all over the world. It was great. We got a call from, and this is really aging me, but we got a call from a company in New Jersey that was filming a movie about 2 comic creators that fell in love, and they wanted to have people be extras in that movie. And this director was a fan of our comics, so he had called my publisher and asked if he and I would be willing to drive down to Red Bank, New Jersey, and be extras in the movie Chasing Amy. So it was like, yeah, we got to spend the weekend with
Kevin really cool.
Smith and Ben Affleck, and we were in this creepy hotel in New Jersey, and
they're all creepy in New Jersey.
Yeah, it looked like something out of The Shining. The good version of The Shining.
Oh, I knew which one you meant.
Yeah.
To me, there's only one.
Yeah. So it was like, wow, it was so much fun hanging out with these guys for the weekend, and there were all kinds of indie guys there. And it was incredible.
So you were featured in Stan Lee's How to Draw Comics.
Yeah.
How was that moment for you?
It was a Christmas present from Mike Kelleher. Mike was working with Stan Lee on how to draw comics, and Stan and Mike were looking for something that was a good, powerful page one image that was in black and white, that was a recognizable indie comic, because Stan was doing this outside of Marvel, so and mine came up, and Mike is like, I know this guy. Well, I can get this. So it was Phil Miller's illustration from Section 12, which is in Section 12 flashback number 1, and it was a fantastic illustration, and it was in there, and it was in the section on scanning and digitally cleaning up images. The one that you start with, and they got my permission. They took it through the scan to the digital cleanups and all of that. So it was fantastic. I did not get a Stan Lee nickname. Mike did, but he's Mighty Mike Kelleher. I did not get one. I was a little jealous, but yeah, it was great. I never got to. I met Stan once at a convention. I never got to really work with him much on that, but Mike traded a lot of emails with him. He was corresponding with him a lot, and he said it was a great experience.
It's still, I don't think, I know for a fact I had that book in the 90s growing up.
Yeah.
And I wish I still had it to this day, because I remember getting it at a bookstore because I was really big into drawing. Well, I was trying anyway. I was never very good at it, but it was just one of those where it was a Stan Lee thing. So it was one of those where I'm like, Stan Lee's going to tell me how to draw comic books. And I'm like, that's cool. I want that. And I remember getting it, taking it home and trying to practice, probably tracing the pictures from the book. So who knows? I probably traced your.
You might have. Yeah.
So that's really cool, man. And as I was creating this interview over here, that was one of those where I was like, I have to tell him that, because it's so cool that you were featured in it. I used to trace pictures out of that thing like it was going out of style. And I'm pretty sure that was one of those books where I had some X-Men like comic books from the 90s too, where I probably just wore right through the staples and everything. Yeah. I traced out of it so much, just trying to learn how to do shading and drawing and line work. And like I said, I never got good at it, but I loved it,
We were in Borders one time, a friend of mine and myself, and I don't know, he was ragging on me like, oh, you wrote a comic book, good luck having it in here. And I said, I'll bet you dinner that I can find my name in this bookstore. And he's like, oh yeah, right. And then I went right over, and they had that book. The deck was loaded because I knew they had the book, and I just opened it up. I opened up the index, and I'm like, okay, here you go.
Free dinner, let's go.
Yep. Exactly.
So what sparked the creation of Lenovations Press in 2014, which is just the coolest name ever, by the way, because you literally got to take the first part of your name and just like add ovations in it, and boom.
Yeah, and that's why it's called Jay Leno's Garage now, because I got the domain first. That's why the show is called Jay Leno's Garage. They did contact me for it, but no. I in another life I was a web designer, and I needed a cool name, and that was what I came up with. And then in 2014, Tracksuit Man was only going to be a one shot. I want to prove that I can do this thing. So what do I call it? Exciting comics, good comics, fun comics, Lenovations Press. Okay. Because I already had the Lenovations logo from the website and all of that stuff. So I said, okay, it's going to be Lenovations Press. If I'd have known that it was going to like turn into something, I probably wouldn't have named it after myself, but because there's a lot of other people that are involved, but here we are.
Hey, it sounds cool. It rolls off the tongue really good. So, I mean, hey.
Yeah.
But let me ask, what does boutique publishing mean to you? Because I love that word, boutique publishing. It sounds fancy.
Again, we get together and we talk, and it's kind of like, I don't do Kickstarters because I have this thing about holding on to somebody else's money and
Yeah.
making promises and things like that. So that's not my model. My model is I go out there, I publish. I have 3 or 4 sites that either do fulfillment and do printing, or that I sell through. I sell digital copies, I sell print copies. I have a stock here that I do shows, not just comic shows. I'll do fan shows, media shows, craft shows. Sometimes I do events at schools. I do things at libraries. So there's a lot of things that I do. And what word brings all of that eclectic stuff together, and I think a boutique publisher, because I'm not in a lot of stores. I'm in a couple of stores locally where I can sign stuff, but that's about it. Because I never went the diamond path, which in 2014 was really weird, and everybody said
probably good you didn't.
Yeah, don't do don't do this without the diamond path because you'll starve. And I said, through social media, through the internet, through just getting the word out, I can make enough to cover what I need to do. And I have. And that, it's like one comic funds the next, and that's how this is all built. So yeah, I'm not rolling in it. I'm not acting like a lottery winner, but it's like it's paying for itself, which keeps my wife happy.
And that's the important part right there.
Exactly. So that pays for itself, but little else. So I thought boutique was really a good word, because think of a small specialty shop that you would go in, which is the only place that you can go and buy something. It's available some other places, but not widely. So that's what we are. We're a boutique publisher.
No, I like it. And it, like I said, Lenovations Press, boutique publishing. You've gotten these words that just roll off the tongue just so well. It is great marketing too. So I mean, but no, hey, if you need somebody to come do a show with you, I know a couple of things. I know enough to get me into some trouble. And I love Mass. Mass is so fun to be up there. Yeah. When it warms up.
We have a lot of fun at shows. Yeah.
But when you say we don't chase volume, we create something worth collecting. It's another one of those sayings that you have, and I really like. What is that?
Okay. So I'm not looking to, again, me trying to edit my stories. So when I delved into public domain and golden age characters, I was like, wow, this is great. Here's all this content. I could put out so many books just by reprinting, all of these old Western stories, these horror stories, these superhero stories, all of this stuff that's in the public domain. And I'm like, I started reading it, and I'm like, I know why these books were canceled. Sorry,
they're horrible.
So why should I devote my time, money, and resources, and that of the people that work with me, on a project that I'm not excited about? So I made a rule that we don't publish something unless we're excited about it. So what you read is a fancy way of saying we don't half-ass it. I'm not putting out a book just to say I put out more books. So to brag, I just sent off to the printer today book number 40 and 41 from Lenovations Press, which we've been around a little over 10 years. It's not a startling number, but I'm proud of it, because a lot of indie creators don't get beyond number 5 of anything. So,
Yeah. And I interview a lot of young kids coming up in the industry right now, and I love talking to them. I love to feel their energy, their excitement. And I was just talking about this last night with Donald as well. And it's like, I hope they have what it takes to make it past that number,
Yeah.
They get to 2, they get to 3, and then the amount of work it takes to sustain what they dream of, I don't think that that's really caught up to them yet. And when it does catch up to them, that's when you see the crash and burn.
So, yeah, there's a lot of crashes and burns. Mega Size was born because everybody buys the most recent one. Everybody buys 1s and 2s. What about 3, 4, 5? You know, when you start to get up to, I still got to bring them all to shows, but I'm going.
You know what?
home with
I
those.
call
A
that
lot
the
of
meat and
1s.
potatoes of any comic series.
Yeah.
That's the meat and potatoes.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? By combining these into these little mini graphic novels, I don't have to carry as much stock. And number 3 has just as much weight now as number 1
Mhm.
because it's part of the same story. It's in the same book.
Yeah.
So that's worked really well.
So you're in local shops up there. So how do you feel that a lot of local comic shops won't carry their local comic book writers and artists?
Yeah, it's tough. And the consignment thing is tough too. And I tell people this, you know, because local shops, let's be honest, it's not all a brick and mortar store like you see on TV or the movies.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's a guy at a flea market that has a booth there every week, you know.
Yeah.
So it's stuff like that too. But what I've learned is if you're going to consign things, you have to visit them often and you have to inventory often, because through, you know, it's not always just one person working there, and, you know, through no fault of their own.
Yeah.
If you leave 20 copies of something there and they only have 3, they're like, oh, who are you again? Oh, I
Mhm.
don't know. You know, we must have got these from somebody's collection or something. So you have to keep renewing that relationship, and that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So
It really
I've
is.
definitely
And
cut back on that because I've been burned too many
Yeah.
times like that. So
no, and I know there's some like Ray Raynet down in South Florida drives like hours on end to get to shops that will carry his product on the shelves. And he
Right.
has no problems doing that because he has such a good relationship
and
with that
yeah,
shop, which is
right.
really amazing. And I love to
Yeah.
hear, you know, local comic shops supporting their local,
Yeah.
actual local artists and local writers and local
Mhm.
producers of comic books. And when they have like in-store sign-ins and or in-store like promotions and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and they bring in the local people, I always enjoy seeing that being done. I just don't think it happens on a scale that I wish it would. You know what I'm saying?
Well, part of it is not the store owner's fault either, because I've talked to a lot of store owners about it. They have these events, and you know,
Mhm.
there's a big store up by where Phil Miller lives, and I'm like, I'll drive up there anytime and do a signing with him, and you know, we have stuff coming out if you want us on Free Comic Book Day or whatever. And they're like, not a lot of people show up,
Yeah.
and
And yeah,
that's what
but
happens.
I always also look at that as, okay, where was the marketing from the LCS to announce this thing was happening?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a two-way street with that. Like mom and pop shops aren't going to do what it takes to get that word of mouth out there. So if it doesn't do good that first year they attempt it, they're not going to come back a second year to try it again because they
Yeah.
wasted money on the first year. Like,
Mhm.
but did you market it the proper way?
Yeah.
And 9
Yeah.
times out of 10, the answer is no.
I did one about a couple of years back in Connecticut, and the guy marketed it really well. And it was a Free Comic Book Day event, and there were like 15 of us there. It was a mini comic show in the back of his store because he had a
Mhm.
huge store. And it was like, I'm like, wow, this is busy. I made a lot of money. I've connected with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And when you go to things like this, to be clear, when I say I made a lot of money, that just means that I got people interested in my stuff, which is really the goal. It's not about the revenue that you bring in. It's about how many new readers are you getting on board, because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, that's why we're making comics, is for people to read them and for people
Mhm.
to enjoy them.
And those people lead to clicks on the website, which lead to sales on the website, which leads
Right. Yeah.
to
Mhm.
our pockets
Yeah.
being a little heavier. And that's what you want. And we were talking before we went live about how many people cannot give that 2-minute pitch on their comic book, and it's their comic book.
Yeah.
So,
well, the other thing, and I'll say this for all these people that have a problem with that at the show, just remember one thing, okay? If you can get the information in somebody's hand, if they're so about it, that doesn't mean, just because they're not buying it from you today, doesn't mean that they're not going to buy it from you. The last comic show I went to, I was packing up the car and my phone started blowing up because people were buying things that they, the show closed earlier than they thought, and they went on my website and went out and bought it. So that happens too.
Yeah. So 14 years now, what does it actually take to sustain a publishing line over that long of a time frame from an independent perspective?
5 words: don't quit your day job.
That's why I have one. That's why when people are like, "Hey, I shot you an email," I'm like, "Yeah, I know you did. I'll get to it when I get home."
Right. Yeah, most of us do. Big secret. Most of us don't do this full time. Can't do this full time. Would like to do it full time, but we don't.
Oh yeah.
So there's so many people that I try and counsel out of quitting their day job because they think that this is the path to success. They think that this is going to make them rich, that they're going to be the next big thing. Much like when I got into writing, I'm like, "Hey world, here I am." It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You have to take the ladder one rung at a time, and you're going to start from the bottom. No matter how much you want to start from the middle, you're going to start from the bottom. So what does it take? It takes patience. It takes a thick skin. Just because people walk away from your table at a show, either rudely or not rudely, they're not rejecting you. Sometimes people are not nice about it either, and they're like, "Oh, this sucks," or "This is stupid," or "I've seen something like this before." It's
got news for people. There's no more new comic book ideas out there.
No, there's not.
It's been done some way, some
everything
shape,
is
some
derivative
form.
of something else. Yeah. So one of the things that you have to remember is sometimes it's not about you, it's about them. It's about we had an incident at a show last year where somebody came up and said, "I could have done this better. I draw better than this, or I do better than this." And it was a little upsetting and hurtful the way he was saying it. So I talked to the 2 guys that I was with there, and I said, "Look," I said, this wasn't about you or your artwork at all. It was about him feeling bad about himself because he hasn't done this with his life, and he wanted to, clearly. So because of that, he makes himself feel better by saying bad things about you. And so you have to have a little bit of a thick skin and a little bit of a patience to be able to understand that, sometimes people just take it out on you, unfortunately. And that's part of being public facing, because when you put your work out there, it's a very personal thing, and you're putting stories that you made out there, you're putting your work out there. Not everybody's going to be gracious about
it. And I feel that so much.
Yeah.
I mean, even
you're doing it too with you have media.
Yeah, it's just a different type of medium, but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me the amount of, I don't want to say it's hate. It's just
it's not.
I can do it better, or I should do this. I'm like, hey, please, I encourage you. If you need help, reach out. I will help you get started in what I do. And I will give every tip and every pointer and everything I've learned along the way. Yeah. And then if you're still around in a month, hey, cool.
Yeah. It's not that easy. And, not everybody has the patience to learn something and develop it as a craft. And I guess that's what it takes, is having patience, having thick skin, having confidence, being daring enough to put yourself out there, and wanting to learn and grow and develop along the way.
And understand this stuff don't happen overnight.
No.
And when people go, "Oh, well, you're making money." Oh, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
And if I am making money off of it, it's off affiliate clicks from BCW and a few others that I have.
Yes.
And oh, by the way, for anybody out there, whoever wonders, like, oh, how much does he get off a click? 2 cents. Okay.
Yeah.
2
Right.
cents. And oh, by the way, I can't even take out the cash until I hit a certain dollar amount, which is
It's the same with
a
comic
lot.
books. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the same with digital comic sales. It's like
Yep.
there's a certain amount. They take a commission after you
Yep.
take it out. Yeah, I know.
I mean, if somebody buys something from the site, then yes, I do get a little bit more, but it's not that much more. It's a couple of bucks.
Yeah,
But
exactly. Exactly.
and
And all the
crazy, like, well,
subscriptions to the
you have this
software and everything.
affiliate thing, and
Yeah. No,
like,
all the
yeah.
subscriptions to the software that you have to pay for and all of that stuff, it's probably barely covering those costs. So
it don't cover anything.
okay.
It covers
Yeah,
nothing.
there you go.
I literally just got it. So it's one of those where I'm like, I just got this. Hey, people, go click this link and go buy stuff from the website.
Yeah.
Get 10% off, please, and thank you. And
Yeah.
and it's like people in their head have this certain, like, it's a number in their head, and in this instance, it's 10,000, right?
Yeah.
10,000 followers across your platforms. That's when they start to take notice and start willing to be, hey,
Right.
you run my advertisements. This is what I will pay you.
Right.
And I'm working toward that number right now. It's just not easy to do.
Yeah.
And people think, oh, well, I'm charismatic and I'm this, and I'm like, hey, that's cool, man. But can you market yourself? Can you market your product?
Yeah.
Do your friends and family give a damn what you're trying to do? Will they support you in this?
Yeah.
Because all of that matters is, do you have that kind of support? And thankfully, I came into this with a support system in place. I have had a lot of people who are very smart and very knowledgeable in this, but the rest of it was up to me. Is, can I market this? Can I get people willingly to come on this podcast to sell people their products? And at the end of the day, that's what I do. I provide a platform for people to sell their products on and to pitch themselves to you, for you to become a new fan of them, and vice versa. And it's fun. I don't care either way. I get to talk to Len here. I get to talk to Donald last night. I get to talk to all these amazing creators and get their stories out there for everybody to hear and to listen to and to enjoy, as much as I enjoy pulling the stories from people, whether it's the abridged version or the edited version of the story. Right, Len?
Yeah. So this is what I tell my guys, and I'll tell you. Okay. So this is because I think your show falls into the same category. So when I create comics, I say, this is my statue in the park. This is what I'm famous for. I've contributed something to pop culture that is going to outlive me. All right. So 50 years from now, somebody will be looking with their holographic, Apple Watch version 300, and it'll display my comic book, and they'll be able to read it and scroll through it like that. And they'll be doing the same thing with your podcast. And, it's outlived us, and it's amused somebody else in the future. So this is our shot at doing something to, make this pop culture of ours matter.
Yeah, and it's what I always say is, I'm giving back to the industry that I love so much, which is indie comic books. And getting to talk to indie creators is so fun. And people, if you're at a convention and you see an indie comic book creator just sitting there bored off his ass, go talk to them.
Yeah.
Go get their story, because their story is going to blow you away with how this happened. The passion they bring to storytelling is some of the best energy that you could soak in. And I get to do it so often, and it's so fun for me to get to do this and talk to people. Like, I can't explain, like, the adrenaline rush I have sitting here talking to people that goes well after the show ends. Of course, you crash because you're riding that adrenaline high. You're going to crash eventually. And you're going to sleep like a baby. But so I got to ask, though, how do you decide which of your projects will get made, and like which artists are collaborators that you work with? Do you have like your little inner circle there where y'all get together on a Zoom or whatever it is, and we're like,
no,
hey guys, what are we doing?
It's not like that at all. It's been a lot of trial and error, I'll be honest. with Phil Miller, it's just a natural fit. He's got that classic Silver Age style. I don't know if you got a chance to look at some of the comics.
I did get a chance to I finally figured out how to make the passwords and stuff work, so I was able to get my eyes on a few of them. Yeah. Some of the links were I would download the covers and they would be this big, and then so I would try to blow it back up to make it something I could use, and it would just distort it so bad. So I had to go to Facebook and grab a couple from there. Yeah. Sure. I grabbed the Lenovations Press thing from there, and just use that to kind of advertise that, hey, you're going to be on here tonight. Yeah. And I use the same ones when I go to make these clips as well.
We have we have two free comics online that you can totally read. I'm not looking for anybody's information or anything like that. So it's like you can just go read them. So that works out really well. But Phil had that natural Silver Age style for Section 12, and it's just become the defining look. So I was like, okay, we're going to give you, the Section 12 flashback title is yours. Nobody else is going to take it. And that all, once upon a time, we just did Section 12 flashback and Section 12 declassified. We had two series. We had the modern day and we had the 1994 one. I finally found a guy in the Philippines. He was a artist for Upper Deck. He was doing trading cards, and I'm like, you know what? If I give this guy the right direction, I think he's got what it takes to give us that modern day look. And his name's Dominic Rancho, and he's fantastic. He does that. So we'll go on Facebook and we'll chat for every once in a while. Phil and I text, more than we actually talk on the phone. Yeah. But those are the main two guys. And then we've had a lot of people join us over the years. Some of them stuck and some of them don't. But that's okay too. But we were sitting there, and a lot of my stories start with somebody came up to me at a show and asked, is that all you do is Section 12? And I said, well, I have Tracksuit Man too. And they're like, well, that's one book. And the secret of doing well at a show is having a lot of things to sell to people. If you have one comic, you can expect that somebody will come over to your table and buy one comic. They're not going to buy 10 of the same comic. So you can, if 10 people come over to your table, you're going to make 10 sales. If you sell your comic for $5 a piece, you're going to make $50 that day. That's just simple math. Yeah. So if you scale that up and you have 15, 20, 25 comics at your table, then, the numbers get a little more real. So I was looking at Phil and I was saying, we could do some other stuff. And Phil goes, I want to draw cowboys. So I'm like, okay, let me.
That's wild. I just had this conversation at my LCS with the owner there, and I forgot what comic book it was, but I was like, dude, we need more cowboy comic books, like stuff like that. Whether it's like a sci-fi type of Western, or just like apocalyptic type of Western, something like that. And then the following week, no kidding, 2 come out, like 2 separate ones. I think one from Boom Studios and one from Dark Horse. Yeah. Well, I was just like, he was holding them up like, 2 of them come out, dude. He's like, I don't know what you did, but 2 of them come out.
Yeah. We so I was looking at public domain stuff. I think I mentioned that earlier on. Yeah. And I was kind of like, well, maybe I can just do something with one of these characters because it's free. It's already established. I don't have to, craft this origin story. So I found Red Mask from Magazine Enterprises. So I made Red Mask Rides Again. And I did reprint the origin because the origin story was decent. And the whole thing of that book was Tim Holt was a cowboy star and they wanted to make him into a comic book superhero, but that just, it ran for a number of issues, but it was more Tim Holt centric than Red Mask. So I took the Tim Holt out of it and I made Red Mask Rides Again. Yeah. And it's a great comic. It's done well. We're working on number 2. I'm very excited about that. And then the other one I did was Wild West Adventures of Buffalo Bill. And Phil made a face at me when I said that. Because he's like, I like the idea of the Red Mask. And I'm like, okay, I'll get somebody else to do Buffalo Bill. So I found this guy with a very quirky and unique art style, Alexander Bozic. He's from Serbia, and he does a great job on it. and it reimagines Buffalo Bill. Buffalo Bill had a Wild West show. It, that was very famous, and that's all true. But I changed it a little bit. I made it into a traveling Wild West show. So now he goes around the Old West and he finds all of these things. Now, you're talking to a guy who doesn't like Westerns. So I wrote it more like that old TV show, The Wild Wild West, than I did a Western show. So, he fights Frankenstein. He fights, remember that old John Wayne movie, The War Wagon?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So somebody resurrected.
So, you know what that reminds me
wagon.
of, though, is you can still find them every now and then in like dollar bins and stuff like that. But the Penny Dreadfuls.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It was just a collection of like stories like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they made the TV series, which is really fantastic. I really loved that TV series and was sad when it ended, but it ended on a good note and in the proper way. But I just think that's really cool. That's like some of my favorite types of stories where it's just fun and it's quirky and like, why in the hell is Frankenstein's monster in a Western? Yeah,
exactly. So I did that, and I thought, hey, this is my chance, because I love to hide Easter eggs in stories. I love to put hidden references in stories. And I'm like, how many hidden references can I actually put in there? And this stuff is just full of it. And it was getting to be, and I'm going to segue onto something else now. It was getting to be a bit cumbersome having all of these Easter eggs and hidden references, because I'd have to burn so many pages to tell people where they were. So, when you're telling a story, pages are money, and it's like, I don't want to have 8 pages of exposition to say in the last issue, did you see this? Did you see this? Did you see this?
Yeah.
So I decided that I would follow in your footsteps before I even knew you, to make a video and have a video explainer of that. So and I'm going to segue onto another story about how I created my own YouTube videos and things like that, and how I do it. It's fairly unique. I went in and I dressed up my basement like a comic show. So I had all my banners and I had tables and everything, and I did it over there, and I put my iPad up, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to record. And I'm like, hi, everybody, this is Len, and I'm here to talk to you about the Wild West Adventures of Buffalo Bill. Did you see this? And I showed it to my kids, and you could hear them laughing from down the street.
Yeah. They
said, this is like you were taken hostage, and we have to buy your comic books to get you free. And so they just thought it was.
I actually kind of like that concept.
Yeah. So much for my video career. I'm kind of like, okay, I'm all done with this. And that sat on the shelf for a couple of years, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get into. I'm just going to have to do like a book or something with all the Easter eggs in it or something. I don't know. I'm just going to put that on the shelf. So then, and you're going to hate this word, but some of these AI programs came out. So I was able to use an AI program and manipulate it to the point where I had 2 podcast hosts talking about my comic book. I fed it in all of the details. I gave it every single Easter egg. I gave it all of that. And the banter that went back and forth was what was missing. So rather than hearing me drone on and on about comics, it really took just 2 people talking about it to make the same content interesting. So I created Indie Comics Deep Dive with Mona and Sam. And Mona and Sam are my virtual hosts. And they go on and they will tell you what all the Easter eggs in Buffalo Bill #1 are. And they will point it out. And
I like the concept. And I'm not a fan of AI, but if AI is used ethically for the right reasons, it could be, it's a tool, right?
Yeah, it is a tool. And I'm not ripping off any artists, because I'm using my own art, art that I either made or bought and paid for. So I have perfect rights to use it. I'm not saying like create an image of Buffalo Bill doing this. It's all my own stuff in there that has been bought and paid for. So we have a lot of fun with that. And it's every comic will have its own show, And like you, it takes me a very long time to do them. I'm not as quick as you are, but it's a lot of fun. We have a small but mighty following. When I stop doing them and I focus on comics, I start getting emails from people like, when's the next show coming out? So I know that there's some interest there, which is great. So it's not, I'm not in the podcast business per se. I'm just in the business of promoting the Lenovations Press brand. And that's just it's another way of connecting with our readers to give them a little bit behind the scenes. And
no, hey, if it works, it works, right? And I will never do I want to see it in my comic books? Absolutely not. But in the way you're doing it, is it hurting anybody? No. Yeah. And if people are going, hey, when's the next one? You're probably on to something, and you're probably doing it right.
Yeah. So what we're working on now is Mona and Sam, the fictitious characters, are going to have their own comic book where they're going to interview all the Lenovations Press characters on their fictitious podcast show. So how is that for 3 levels of meta?
Hey, that's actually kind of cool. It's a pretty cool concept, actually.
Yeah.
Where they're interviewing Wild West Bill and, Tracksuit Man would be interesting.
Yeah, Tracksuit Man's going to be on there. And Batter from Section 12 and, somebody else from Section 12 and the Fantastic Fanboys. So there's a lot of stuff that is going on.
So let me ask, what do you think is the biggest mistake indie creators are making?
I think you touched on it earlier. I think that they're going to give up too soon.
Yeah.
I think that if you one issue, you print it, you lay out a dozen of them on the table. Why did I only make $50 this show? Because you only had one comic to sell and you're getting $10 a piece and only 5 people bought them. So I think that they pay $100, $200 to have a table of the show for the weekend. They don't sell a lot.
That's being generous. It could be more.
Yeah. So they don't sell a lot. They don't make a lot, and they give up and they go on to something else. And they try something else, and they try something else. Like one of these is magically going to hit, and you got to put in the work. I mean, it's not. I've been doing this for over a decade now, and it pays for itself. I'm not super famous at it, but it's like you gotta find that it's rewarding for its own sake.
Yeah. So beyond Kickstarter, because you've never used Kickstarter yourself or Indiegogo or anything like that.
Patreon. I use Patreon. Because Patreon is a subscription base because they have a pay-as-you-go model. Yep. And that way people can not only support me, but they get, inside scoop on things. I give them peeks every month on artwork that's ongoing. Like the text between me and Phil are art based a lot, and I'll just put those up on Patreon and say, this is what we're working on right now, so that's great. And then I'll bill them when a comic comes out. This was the last one that comes out. And for the print customers, if I'm mailing something, I'm going to stuff something else in that envelope too, because it doesn't cost me any extra in postage. So I'm like, if I have another comic that I know you don't have, I'm going to stuff that in there too.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So beyond that, where do you think creators should focus their time beyond the Kickstarters and beyond, Indiegogos and that kind of stuff? I know Patreon's a great asset for people if they can use it correctly and understand that $50 for a subscription to you to post sneak peeks of your work or your writing, it's not worth $50.
No.
I'm just putting it out there for people.
No,
and I like to follow some creators on there. Yeah. And if I see you're trying to charge me $50 and you only put out one thing a month, I'm not coming back to it.
No, of course not.
In fact, you're probably going to get a nasty gram from me going $50 for one post a month. No.
Yeah. But it's like, and I'm a big proponent of the free memberships too. I mean, we have more free people than anything, and all you got to do is sign up for free, and you'll see these sneak peeks and these art picks and things like that. So, why not? I'm not after anything other than increasing the brand, and I think that's what people should focus on. What's the best way you can increase your brand? Like Global Comics, Drive Through Comics are two digital platforms that I use. Do I make a ton of money on them? No, and it's because of how their model is set up. It's not that I'm not selling a lot there. It's just that they don't pay a lot. And know that as you go in, it's like, again, your penny a click. You're happy to get the penny. You're happy to get the click because it drives traffic around, and that's what you're here to do. But if there were a magic way to do this and be successful at it, I'd already be doing it right now. I wouldn't be trying different things.
Yeah.
So, and now I'm going to segue again. So if you read my comic book, section 12, flashback number 1, which is the story that started it all, it's a cool 22-page story about, somebody who turns into a monster and gets abducted, and he's blackmailed into, working for a secret government project that he finds out all about. And then in the midst of it, there's a prison break that he has to help, he has to help suppress. Okay. There's a lot that could happen in between all of those scenes and all of those panels. And I wrote a book, like a book. And it's just about that novel. So imagine taking your favorite comic book and blowing up that story and giving characterization, giving pacing, giving motivation, giving, the guard that walked by, what's his story? Is he afraid? Is he, does he have a backstory? Does he have, there's a lot more world building that was possible. So I released my first novel last year. I'm working on my second one. And I'm, that's going to be another way to increase the brand. I took the 94 timeline and I put a present day timeline on top of it as a way of stretching my world. And now I'm making it a little thicker by putting novels together. So
that's really cool. And it's just another element to what you're already doing with no real work, because everything's already there in your head.
So I already have the outline. Yeah, it's a printed comic. So it's like,
So what's next for Lenovations Press, and what has you the most excited?
So I've already touched on it. The novels have me excited because I think that that's a future, because it's a way of introducing people into the brand that wouldn't normally be there. So in the last show, I had a father that was looking for a science fiction book, and I had a son who was younger who didn't want to read the science fiction book, but he was happy to read a 20-page comic book. So the comic book is the same story as the novel. So I sold the father the novel and gave the comic book to the kid, and they were able to do that as a father and son activity together, and they really enjoyed it. And the father could tell the son all of the things that was happening in between the panels. So cool. I think I really serve the audience that way.
That's a cool moment.
Yeah. So I like to do stuff like that. The Mona and Sam podcast is like getting out of control in the best way possible, because my last video was like, I'm like, what do I get Phil Miller for his birthday? He's one of my best friends. He's a great artist. He doesn't need anything. It's like, okay, I'll get him a pack of pens or something, and I'm like, no, I'll just put all this stuff through Mona and Sam's algorithm and tell him it's his birthday and see what comes up. So we had a virtual birthday party for Phil Miller on the show, and it was great. He had a show, and they talked about what they liked the best about all of the art that I uploaded there, and their honest feedback about it, and it was a lot of fun. So we were able to take the show in that direction, which was really cool. And then we took, like I said, we're making a comic book out of it right now. Our newest artist, Kevin Phillips, is drawing it, and he's doing a fantastic job with it. And it's just a lot of fun. It's goofy, it's really goofy, but I think people are going to enjoy it. So we also have a very aggressive, and this is another one of my podcast things where I had a lot of fun. I kicked Sam off the show, and Mona and I did it. So I recorded my voice along with the AI host, and we bantered back and forth with each other about our 2026 schedule, because I had that same moment. I started reading the 2026 schedule into the microphone, and I'm like, this is so boring. So then I loaded that recording into the microphone, and she came up with witty banter as I was doing it. So I just had to cut the audio a little bit, and it sounded like we were hosting a show together.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool. And it's really amazing what you can actually do utilizing that tool.
Yeah.
But what do you think, Len? Got another 5 to 10 years in you for the universe?
Oh, absolutely.
It.
We're going down swinging. We have a lot of things planned. We have some good storylines that are going to finish with Section 12, and I do have a rule: no more number ones. We started Tales of the Unknown, which is a horror anthology, this month, and last year around this time we started Uneven Ground, which is a historical fiction, which gives underserved moments in history a chance. Right now I'm writing about the largest mail truck robbery in history. So I'm writing a story about that. I wrote about a USO show that with a downed helicopter in 1968. And then the first issue was a distant relative of mine who was a freedom fighter in Yugoslavia fighting against the Nazis.
Okay. That's really cool, actually.
Yeah.
So, Len, you ready for some rapid fire questions?
Sure.
Physical or digital comics?
Physical.
Same.
Which surprises even me. I thought digital was really going to take off more than it does. Everybody likes physical. I do too.
People love digital too, but I'm a physical guy, man. Something about holding it and the smells and
Yeah.
Favorite era of comics?
70s.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's really where everything was really, the modern day stuff was born in that time frame. So indie or mainstream?
It depends. If you go back in time and you ask me, I'm going to say mainstream, but now it's indie.
I'm an indie guy all the way. So one comic every creator should read.
This is a loaded question, but it's like I've been working a lot with Don Simpson. I did his multi-mentions book. So my characters got to cross over with Megaton Man, which was fantastic. I think everybody should read his Megaton Man stuff because it's great parody, it's great satire, it's just a lot of fun.
And one mistake every indie creator should avoid. And I think we've said it multiple times.
Yeah, I think we have to. Don't give up. Other than that, don't be surprised when you fail. Like, just because you have a Kickstarter doesn't mean you're going to get funded.
Nailed it. So, Len, tell everybody now where they can find you.
Lenovationspress.com is where everything is. There's a link to, you can read 2 of my comic books for free. You can read Section 12 Flashback and Section 12 Declassified, absolutely free. I'm not looking for your email address or anything. It's displayed right there on the screen. You don't have to click through. You don't have to fill out a form. We have everything for sale on there. You don't have to try and track us down at a show. I'll combine shipping when I can. If the combo packages don't work for you, just send us an email. I'll make up a custom combo package for you, whatever you need. You can buy the novel there. You can buy any of our books. I'll throw some stickers in the envelope. We'd love it if you join us on Patreon. Even if you join us for free, you'll get to see some of those art texts between me and Phil Miller. That's always a lot of fun. And of course, if you want to see Mona and Sam in action, I've talked about them so much, you can go to our YouTube channel and check that out too.
I did see them, and at first I didn't realize what I was watching and it was after a moment I was like, "Oh, gotcha." I'm like, "I see you," and it's a really cool concept that I know a lot of people are making use of that kind of stuff, but it's just kind of cool to see it. And you're not using it in a nefarious way at all. It's just one of those, you're doing something fun for your own brand, which is really cool to do.
Yeah.
But
it promotes it better than I can. So,
and all these links will be in the description of this podcast when it goes live, maybe Sunday. I'm not for sure yet, but Len, this has been an incredible conversation. Hopefully everybody, who listens learned something from this one, because this was a really good one. And, it wasn't just about comics. We had, this has been about persistence, evolution, and building something that stands the test of time and will continue to stand the test of time, because you heard it first. Len's got another good 10, 20 years in him.
Yes. So
for everyone watching, make sure you check out Lenovations Press, support indie creators, and dive into these stories. They are amazing. Section 12 to number 1s are both free, and those were my favorite reads that I got to do from his collection. So, but if you enjoyed this conversation, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this episode with somebody who loves indie comics. And remember, indie comics aren't just the future. They're happening right now. The Council of Nerds is now adjourned. This has been the USDN Podcast, where indie comics come to life. Y'all be safe out there.
It's a trap!